this is Michael Dease, and this is video number 2 for the 2021 edition of the Seiko Summer Jazz Camp trombone videos. And we just had a fun time in video 1 talking about articulation and going over a simple but very deep exercise about how the single tongue begins and manifests and develops into something really special. So we're going to go in video 2 here into the jazz idiom and get away from trombone technique just for a second. We'll come back to that in video number 3. Here, I'd like to talk about something that is really special in jazz and that is uniquely special to the trombone. When you're learning jazz music, it can feel like a lot of different things are being presented to you and asked of you at the same time. Is that correct? Like a lot of overwhelming parts. And to give you an example of some of those parts, we have to learn the melodies to songs. We have to read music well, sometimes in different clefs. For instance, the treble clef, the bass clef, the alto clef, soprano clef, B-flat treble, tenor clef, just a few things. We have to know all of the harmonies of the music. We have to know the order of those harmonies. We have to know how many measures there are in a song. We have to sometimes play songs in different keys. This can all feel like a lot of things to do at one time. And this technique that I'm about to discuss helps combine the idea of structure and form of a composition along with harmony, rhythm, shape, dynamics even, and even feel. And these are really important things to think about when you're improvising as well. And this concept is something that all instruments can do again, but the trombone is especially suited to it. And this is walking bass lines. Walking bass lines on the trombone means playing the notes in the order and the feel that the upright bass plays when they're accompanying a band playing a jazz song. And not just jazz songs, the bass is in almost every form of music in the world. Bass lines are really, really important. Just a few songs that have identifiable bass lines in jazz would be Cedar Walton's Bolivia. Please check that out. Perhaps the most famous bass line in jazz would be So What, written by Miles Davis, that has that amazing bass line. Do-do-do-do-dee-dee-dee-da, so what? Right? And that's just two bass lines. Chameleon is a great bass line as well. I believe that's Herbie Hancock. And we're going to start with our bass line playing the F blues. All right? So in this F blues, we're going to think of right now the first 4 bars being the chord F7, F dominant 7. And we're going to use our bebop scale going up and down to realize this. So if we can just tap your foot lightly, tap, 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 2, a 1, 2, 3. Okay? One thing that you notice is that you start on the tonic, the first note of the F7 chord, F, and as you walk up the 8-note scale, you land on the tonic an octave higher on the downbeat. We like this in bass lines because we like to hear the tonic in a very important place, in a place that's either saying that this is where this chord begins on the downbeat of the measure, or if it's not on the downbeat, that it resolves in a place that makes sense from a note that makes sense. Okay? So if you have three measures of the same chord and you use that approach of playing the bebop scale, ascending, going up, the scale will land on the downbeat of the third measure, resolving up from the leading tone to the tonic. That's E to F in concert. Now, notice when I play these, I'm not playing them flat. I'm using a slight accent on every note. And that's because I'm trying to recreate the feel of the walking bass with that slight pull. And you can hear the accent, and that's what gives the bass that propulsive, momentum carrying sound and role within the band. That's why the bass is often referred to as the heartbeat, because we feel that. We feel that every day, right? Or at least I hope you do. So, doom, 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 doom. Okay? So we're going to do that again, ascending and descending. And so if we landed on F and beat in bar 3 on the downbeat, and then we do the same scale but going down, what note do we land on bar 5? Let's see. 1, 2, 3. So now we're in bar 5 of our F blues, and we're landing on an F. Hey, F is cool, right? Kind of, because the chord changes in the 5th bar of a blues to the 4 chord. So this would be B flat 7. Well, isn't F in B flat 7? It is. But it's not a very strong note. It's not a note that says, hey, we're in B flat now. What would be a better note that says we're in B flat? Well, D, you say. D is a note that says we are in a major chord if the chord is in B flat. But D could also mean that we're in a D minor chord or a D major chord. The most compelling note to tell us that we're in the key of B flat would be, especially if nobody else is playing, it's just simply trombone bass notes, the B flat. So we're going to adjust our bass line, and we're going to skip a note so that we can get to the B flat on the downbeat. So check out what I'm going to do. When we're descending this F bebop scale line, I'm going to skip the G, the G on the way down, so I can get to F on beat 4, and then beat 4 can launch to beat 1 to the B flat. 1, 2, 3. See how that works? It puts me on that tonic, the first note of the 4 chord being B flat 7. It puts me right there, and now I'm saying B flat chord in the first note of the B flat chord space, which is bar 5. Okay, so once you understand how that works, then you can start doing some research, and this is really fun. You can take recordings that you've listened to. You can ask your friends what are some of their favorite bass lines, what are their favorite blueses. There's hundreds and hundreds of F blueses where bass players have been practicing their bass lines for years and years. And you start listening and you start copying. So here's a couple of my favorite F7 bass lines. 1, 2, 3. here's one. I call that the bouncy walk down. All right, because it's not just quarter notes; it's dotted eighth and sixteenths. Right, and then there's another one that I like that's called the. I'm making up names now, but I'd call it the scoop up. All right. And that's because it starts high, goes low, and then scoops up. So. Right? And then we can do that same shape in B flat over the 4 chord. Okay, each one of these bass lines has a different character, and as you learn them and practice them, you can start to improvise, not only within them, but you can improvise when you play a certain line, because each one of those lines has a different emotional message, right? So let's play a couple of those together. 1, 2, 3. So this one puts a passing tone between the 6th scale degree and the 5th scale degree. All right, so we'll play that again. I'll play that 3 times in a row. 2, 3. Here's the scoop up, 2, 3. Right? As you get more and more chord changes, then you adapt these lines to fit the chords as they appear. So one of the first chord changes you can add at the beginning of the blues is the 4 chord in the 2nd bar. So that means you just get 4 beats of F7, all right? And then we go back to F for the 3rd bar. So let's hear how that sounds. Okay, in that case, I used the scoop down, but then I went above the B flat to C and chromatically went down to B flat. So here's how that sounds. And at this point, I'm thinking I gotta get to B flat. But if I go to B flat next, I get there too early. So I'm gonna go above B flat and stretch out those 2 beats to get to B flat. Then I'm going to scoop up to F. Now the next harmony that we put in the blues is a 2-5-1 to B flat. So once I scoop up to F, I have to walk down to that 2 of the B flat, which would be C minor. So check out how I'm going to do that walk down. I'm going to use the same thing I did up top, the bebop scale, or the dominant scale with the passing tone between 6 and 5. See how that works? Now we're on C, which is the tonic of C minor going to F7. I don't have a lot of time to get C minor, F7 to B flat, so I can't play any long connective fancy bass lines. So I'm just gonna go, either leading tone, which is right under the next note, or I'm gonna go to a neighbor tone, a top neighbor, which is right on top. So C minor to F7, the top neighbor would be G to F, G, F, and the leading tone would be E natural to F. They sound different. Check it out. Here's the leading tone. Which is your favorite? Hopefully it's half and half, all right? They both sound equal to me. Now I've got to get to B flat. So I have a couple of options. I can do upper neighbor again, or I can do leading tone. Here's how it sounds the other way with upper neighbor. 2, 3. All right. I can also do chromatic neighbor on the upper. And that's implying a different harmony. That's why bass lines are so cool, because they're involved not just in the roots and the fundamentals, but they're involved in the extensions. So if I do a chromatic upper neighbor, then I've got the flat 9 and the flat 5. So check out how that sounds. All right, that sounds a little, if I were talking to toddlers, I would say it sounds a little spooky. But if I'm talking to jazz lovers, then that sounds like a little hip, right? So bass lines are really powerful things. And I'm going to play at the end of this video right now, I'm going to play you not just a blues bass line, but I'm going to play you a bass line over a set of standard chord changes. Okay? Here is a blues bass line. First an F. 1, 2, 3. And then I'd like to play you one more line over a standard song. And this is called Back Home in Indiana. I'll play the melody first so you see exactly where we're at. 1, 2. And that's an intro to bass lines. All right, have fun, take your time, transcribe, listen, learn, sing along the bass lines. Don't start too fast. Play quarter notes first. Don't do a whole bunch of hippity, skippity, slappity doos. And take your time. All that stuff will come with a little bit of practice. Thanks so much.